Good evening to all of our Facebook followers on RTO Doctors Facebook page, and for those of you watching us on our YouTube channel or on LinkedIn, wherever you may be joining us from this evening or over the weekend, thank you for joining us. Tonight's a little bit of a strange one. I'm not sure if it is actually a tip or whether it's just my Friday night ramblings and thoughts that I want to share with you. But I think there is a message in there somewhere if you can work through the madness going through my mind at the moment. I was on my way to my favourite Indian takeaway restaurant to collect some takeaway food for dinner. And as I was on the road, I was looking around me thinking about the value of vocational education and training in our communities, and thinking about all the different ways in which vet contributes to society. And as I looked around, I started seeing driving instructors, I started seeing people who construct roads, traffic management, started seeing shop assistants and small business. I started seeing landscaping and automotive repairs, all of these different jobs that function and keep our community functioning smoothly. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Well, actually it does. If you're in a third world country, it doesn't exist. But in modern society, the Western world and in some places, even in Africa, you get to see the same thing. You get to see people who are traders, you get to see people who are motor mechanics, you get to see people who are skilled at dressmaking, you get to see people who are skilled at floristry, you get to see people who are truck drivers and farmers and agriculturists and all sorts of different trades where vet is valued and contributes significantly to our society and our community. And then I started thinking about all of the other types of vet professionals that we qualify as in the vet sector as trainers and assessors and RTOs. And I started thinking about enrolled nurses and massage therapists, started thinking about building and construction industries and people like carpenters and builders and plumbers and gas fitters and electricians, hairdressers, started thinking about swimming teachers, started thinking about restaurants and takeaway food places. All of those places can only function with the knowledge and skills of someone who has been exposed to the training and assessment in our vet sector. But then I started thinking about other members and job roles in the community where the skills and knowledge can be achieved in the vet sector, but not necessarily is, and people or consumers will still use the services of those people regardless of the fact whether they have a qualification or not. They have significant life experience, life skills, and they have experience and knowledge, and they're known as experts, and people will go and use their services anyway. And so I started thinking about counsellors and coaches and mentors, started thinking about cleaners and receptionists and administration staff. And then I started thinking to myself, but there are other jobs as well where people can work and they do and don't necessarily have to have qualifications in order to do the work. So I remember that several years ago I was involved in a pre-vocational, pre-employment training program that I helped one of my clients to write in the phlebotomy industry. And at the time, there was no qualification required for somebody to be a phlebotomist in Australia. In fact, you could walk into any pathology clinic and you didn't have to have a statement of attainment, you didn't have to have any sort of qualification, and you could just get a job as a pathology collection person. And I don't know whether that's changed or whether it hasn't, and perhaps if that client wants to make themselves known, they can give us an update on what the situation is with that particular industry. But it just reminded me that there are some areas where there are industries that don't necessarily agree with the outcomes that a training package provides. And it's not just industries. When I started thinking about it, I started thinking about WorkSafe. I started thinking about external accreditation bodies. So in particular, in the back of my mind, I was thinking about things like WorkSafe and high-risk work licensing. If there was some sort of agreement between what was in the nationally mandated assessment instrument and the training package, then we wouldn't have this conflict between the NAI and what is actually required by the unit of competency. So, for example, the unit of competency has all of these requirements that need to be met, but the WorkSafe regulator only has this much, for example. And then you look at something like ANMAC, for example, for nursing, and we have a diploma of enrolled nursing that has all of these requirements that need to be met for the training package, but then we have all of these requirements that ANMAC have as well, and there are often gaps between the two. And then I started thinking about other places like the Association of Massage Therapists, and I started thinking about Microsoft certification and all of these other certifying bodies who have these requirements that are over and above or separate to a training package. And so then I started thinking, well, if industry doesn't value the contents of a training package, why do we insist on issuing qualifications and using training packages? As registered training organisations and people in the vet sector, if people are not valuing the product that we sell or the service that we offer, and it's not valued by the customer and it's not profitable, why do we use it? Why do we offer it? Why do we insist? Why do we try and shove a product or a service down clients' throats if it's not something that they're interested in anymore? And so I started thinking that maybe this whole scenario required a different approach to business, that maybe it's business in itself that needs to be looked at. And maybe our businesses are more about looking at training and certification and regulation and value proposition that is important to the businesses that we serve as opposed to what our business is. When we start looking for what's important to our customers and fulfilling their needs rather than our own needs, then I think we might have a more profitable business. Now, it's not rocket science, of course, because that is really just the basic theory of economics. You've got a supply and you've got a demand situation. If the supply is all up there and you've got no demand, then you don't have a business. So you sort of need a balance. And at the moment, what I feel we're seeing in the vet sector is that we've got this huge supply of RTOs. We've got this huge supply of industry, but the two shall not meet because you have regulators who are only too willing to close down the supply because the demand isn't getting what it needs. And it's not getting what it needs for a whole range of reasons. One of the core requirements of being an RTO is that you must engage with industry consultation and take on board the feedback from industry and have it inform your training and assessment practices and products. But what I'm finding in my work with RTOs is that often what industry want and what the training package have that you are required to meet for your compliance requirements are completely different. So you've got industry who wants this, but you've got a regulator saying, no, this is the way it's got to be done. So you either maintain your registration requirement and you stay compliant and you remain an RTO for whatever reason, mind you, because this industry body over here, they're not interested in what you've got to offer anymore because you're not meeting their needs. You're meeting the regulators' needs. You're meeting the training packages' needs. which takes me to this whole concept of the people who are writing our training packages, who are they liaising with? Because if they're liaising with the right industry people that we're all serving to on a day-to-day basis, and we're delivering the demand and the supply that they need, then why is there such a discrepancy between what we're able to offer our clients and what the training package requires us to deliver? Now, I get it that there's a whole issue there of interpretation and what regulators will consider to be subjective, or what we consider to be subjective opinions and all the rest of it. But fundamentally, if you've got a training package that, first of all, is actually a training package, not an assessment package, but it delivers the product and service that industry need, which is effectively what they're funded to provide anyway, then we would be delivering and assessing training and assessment that is meaningful to industry. But at the moment, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because we've got industry that we have to consult with, and we've got a regulator who's demanding that we deliver and assess something that's not even relevant. And when it comes time to audit, we have to demonstrate both, but the training package always wins and the client always loses out. So again, I sort of leave you with this thought tonight of maybe we need to start doing some things differently. And maybe we're forgetting who our real client is, because you can't offer a product or a service to somebody that's not valued. And what I'm seeing more and more is that it's not just RTOs that are offering services and products that are not valued. It's all areas of the vet sector. We're all stuck in this vacuum of ministerial decisions that are ill-informed and don't make sense. They're not in the best interests of society. They're not in the best interests of the community. They're knee-jerk reactions to situations and circumstances that are probably a response to this conflict between supply and demand, and what people want, what consumers want, what industry wants, and what we are required to provide. So I don't know if there's any sort of tip in there for anybody. It's just my Friday night ramblings and reflections and thoughts on the vet sector and its value and what it contributes to our communities. And if you look around, the community has been building itself for years and years and years. You know, it's always grown. It's always had the skills and knowledge of the vocational education training sector. All we're doing is trying to enhance it. And in enhancing it, we're making it more and more difficult for people to do their jobs that they were already good at. You know, I look around and I see the roads that are constructed and the shop assistants and the enrolled nurses and all of these people in their jobs on a day-to-day basis, and you put them in a training room and all of a sudden the regulator comes along and says, you're not competent and current. Well, I'm sorry, some of these people have been doing this job all their lives, and that doesn't mean that they're not competent and current. It probably means that they're far more experienced and knowledgeable than most people who have sat behind a desk and written the training package. So maybe we need to just start looking at things differently and having a look at that supply and demand relationship, having a look at the training packages that we're forced to offer, having a look at what is more valuable to us as small businesses, whether it is actually the compliance and the training package, or whether it's actually meeting our clients' needs. Thank you for following us tonight. Hope that's been helpful for someone. I'm not sure that it's been entirely useful, but it is my Friday night reflection and 30 days, 30 tips second series. Thank you for joining us, and I'll have something for you again tomorrow. Bye for now.